Good morning, I hope everyone's well. Thank you for watching. I made a video about 18 months ago, just after Labour came into power, and I said that they were going to start building new towns all over Britain, but the new towns are not going to be for the indigenous population of these islands. They're going to be for the new arrivals.
Boy, I hate being right all the time.
Now, after the boomer generation had a ton of kids, the governments of the day in the 1960s and 1970s built new towns all over Britain. I'm actually in one of these new towns now, in Runcorn, built onto the old town of Runcorn to take in the overflow population from the boomers for their children to deal with the overspill from Manchester and Liverpool. So you get new towns like in Scammerdale or in Runcorn, to name a few. They're doing it again, but as I say, it's for the new arrivals. It's not for the indigenous population. Our rulers have come to the conclusion that the tax isn't enough from the indigenous population because we are having fewer children, and so they need to supplant the native population or supplement the native population with new taxpayers. This is what's behind the migration into Britain, in my opinion. The state doesn't want to shrink itself. I think the state should be nimble. I think the state should either get bigger or get smaller, dependent on the needs of a particular generation. Just like in a household, when times are tough, you can't afford everything you want. And when times are good, you can spend a lot more on the things that you would want. The state should have that baked in flexibility, generation to generation. So, say for example, Britain has a population now of 70 million. It should be able to cope with a shrinking population down to 60, 50, 40 million. You just cut back on where you're spending, and the state should inevitably shrink itself. That is what a state would do if it was actually working for the people and the needs and wants and the votes of the people actually voting for them to enact government policy. The state is there to preserve itself. The state is there to maintain the status quo. The state doesn't care whether your tax bill goes up or down, as long as they themselves, the political establishment and the uni party, get to maintain their high paid jobs down in London. Now, these people are not only going to be going into new towns, which are being built all over Britain for the new arrivals, the new British, I should say, to coin a politically correct phrase. We all know they're not British, but we'll play the game on this video. Then we look at what else they're doing. They are going to be placing them into army barracks while their claims are decided. Most of the claims are waved through. There's no due diligence and there's no incentive to eject a migrant. If you're in one of these processing centres working for the state, it takes double the time to eject a migrant, and so most of them will be waved through. Now, I was told I was scaremongering, I was bigoted, I was racist, I was a liar when I said that these things were going to be happening. And 18 months down the line, they are happening. I was told I was creating division by highlighting an issue. I don't know about you. I think white, indigenous British people should and will take umbrage with dinghy divers being given priority housing, new build housing, over £300,000 a pop, over their children and grandchildren. And if they're not, then they should be. And they're not just going into these types of places, they're also going into privately owned apartment blocks. I ran a story on my channel about 6 months ago where we had a private landlord in Liverpool on the docks actually trying to evict all of his tenants not going through the due process and just trying to do it. So they tried to say it was a health and safety issue. And then when they looked into it, the owner was looking to shop them all out. He wanted to refurb it, you see, for the new arrivals, and then just not bring the old tenants back in because it's guaranteed income from the state. And this is another thing. Why is it that when the migrants are moved into HMOs, they have to be modified? You see, a standard mould-ridden bedsit or a standard 2 up, 2 down with no double glazing or central heating would be good enough for the precious lambs coming over from Calais. It's not good enough for them, but it's good enough for me, and it's good enough for everyone else watching my video. So without further ado, I'm going to be playing these 2 clips, and I'm going to polish it off with one from Michael Gove, because it's pressing, and I need to get to that as well. So I'm going to start now. Firstly, let's have a look at these new builds, shall we? As I say, this is all over the country. We've actually got new builds of a similar proportion up near Daresbury, and they're going to be housing migrants as well.
Keith at Dutton Close, and these are 21 brand new houses that are basically going to be used for migrants.
Nice if you can get it. Jump on a dinghy from France, come over to Britain, fake your asylum claim, bring your wife, bring your second wife, bring your third wife, bring your 20 kids, and you've got your very own harem at the British taxpayer's expense.
121 migrants. They get their own estate. It's just insane coming here and seeing this. This isn't some old 3-star hotel or some disused student block. This is brand new homes.
Because it's baked in. As I said on the video yesterday, that I was talking about what have we lost, have we failed. This is how we failed. Why are we allowing this? Why have we said, right, okay, the civil servants, the great and the good, the political class, they've got it right. The gammons need to shut up and accept this nonsense. Well, no, I'm not accepting it at all. It's complete and utter horseshit, pardon the language. And then we look at Mrs. Balls, okay? Yvette Cooper. Let's hear what she had to say about it. I think she's our current Foreign Secretary. Let's see what she had to say about this.
The government's view then that asylum seekers should be housed in £300,000 luxury townhouses in Suffolk.
No, we want people to be in more appropriate accommodation and also...
Well, that's fantastically appropriate. I'd love a £300,000
Wouldn't we all like a 300k townhouse on the taxpayer's dime? Wouldn't we all love that? Now, notice why Yvette Cooper, she says we need more suitable accommodation. No, they don't. I didn't sign up for this. I have not voted for this. I do not consent. This is completely unacceptable use of my taxes.
townhouses in Suffolk. What, these are brand new. Why do asylum seekers qualify for those and not indigenous homeless people, Home Secretary?
Or when you're housing all of these dinghy divers in the army barracks all over the country, why don't our homeless veterans get dibs on any property? There's meant to be an armed forces covenant, which is never talked about in the legacy media, is never talked about in government, where government's meant to look after our armed forces when they leave the service. This never happens. Well, we've got infinite amounts of money to house people that broke into our country, do not assimilate, do not integrate, and we're meant to just accept it.
So that's why we need to reduce the overall size of the asylum system so that we have fewer people in asylum accommodation in the first place.
If this isn't serving my interest, you end it completely. This is the question government needs to ask every time they spend a penny of my money. How is it going to benefit me, the taxpayer? This is what I don't understand from politicians either. Even the loony liberals like Mrs. Balls. They're taxpayers as well. How come they've not got the same mindset that I have? This is my money, this is your money. Why do they not have the same type of attitude? You wouldn't run a household like this. Someone breaks into your house, give them your spare room, pay their rent and pay their board, and say, right, okay, fill your boots. It just wouldn't happen because we're not mentally incapacitated like Mrs. Ball seems to be here.
It's why we're making changes to the family reunion arrangements, for example. It's why we're making these changes on students as well.
Or you can just come out of it completely, say, this doesn't serve our interests anymore. My taxpayers don't want to pay for it, and so we're not going to do it.
We need fewer people in the asylum system, so we don't have people in costly accommodation.
As I previously mentioned, when they say we don't need as many people in the asylum seeker system, they're not saying they're going to remove them. They're saying they want to reduce the queues. So how do they do that? They wave them through. No proper checks, taking it on good faith and good humour that they are who they say they are. We've had 20-something, 30-somethings put into high schools for crying out loud.
That is being funded by the taxpayer for long periods of time. The system that we inherited was broken, so it does require a whole series of different reforms.
Leave it. I'm sick of this nonsense. Just leave it.
A lot of those reforms are underway, and we're going to be setting out another phase of new, further reforms, including on the appeals system, so that we're already cutting the costs, so we're saving £1 billion already this year. Remember, under the previous government, I was on like £9 million a day that they were spending on asylum accommodation and on these hotels. We've brought that substantially down.
Yeah, I've had enough of you. I'm not accepting it at all. Complete double speak, and I'm not eating that anymore. And if you think that the Tories are going to be any better, we've got a former government minister from 2010 to 2024, and he was one of the architects of the Boris wave. He went on national TV and said anybody that voted for Brexit to lower immigration is frankly going to be disappointed. Think it's Sir Michael Gove. If he's not a Sir, he's definitely in the House of Lords. He doesn't even think that demographic security of the native British people is something that we need to be concerned about. If you talk about white British people becoming a minority, he thinks that's problematic. Let's have a look, shall we?
And maybe I'm just on a different, I don't know, maybe I'm just on a different wavelength or something. Maybe I'm in my own little bubble. I still feel like, I'm not sure you get it. I just feel that the sense out there, the demographic changes within this country, people don't want any more of it. People feel that in the not too distant future, they're going to start to become a minority in this country.
Well, first of all, it depends on what you mean by minority and who we're classifying in that regard. But more broadly,
well, let's just pick something out of thin air. White British people. They might be watching this. Many of them will be watching this and saying, actually, Michelle, we feel in the not too distant decades ahead, we will become a minority in this country.
Yeah, but the first thing I was going to say is I think once one starts talking about white as a term which defines whether or not someone is British, then look at the England football team. Look at people who've been Prime Minister. I think once you start talking, Michelle, once you start talking about black and white as what defines British, that is problematic.
We have a Conservative here. That's right, a Conservative. He thinks that if you talk in black and white terms about different diasporas and different populations in Britain, that is problematic. Does he think it's problematic that a Nigerian is running his party? Does he think it's problematic that in her home country, Nigeria, they ban white people off the TV because they're not Nigerian? Is that problematic, Michael? Or is it only problematic when it's about white people? I'll tell you what it is. They figured they can do a great substitution of native, indigenous, working class people because the people that they're bringing into this United Kingdom do not expect the same standard of living that the native British population do. They come from, I don't know, a mud hut in Nigeria, and they come over to Britain, and they get put into a council house. They don't have an aspiration to own a house from their perspective and their 20 kids that they bring with them. They've traded up. They don't have the same concerns as the West. the Western populations of Europe, they don't have the same concerns. More power to them, all right, to a degree. It's not their fault. They are being indulged by our liberal elite classes. They are inflicting this on us. If a migrant's coming from France, he's taking advantage of our bad law and our wonky asylum system to further his own ends. All right? Many people in that situation would do the same. It's not necessarily their fault. They are exploiting the good nature of the people spending our taxpayers' money.
Now,
More to the point.
I'm sorry.
No, more to the point. What is wrong with A, ending illegal migration, B, dealing with the backlog of people who are currently here under indefinite leave to remain? What is wrong with that?
Well, I'm going to respond to this because I'm not having this. You're allowed to talk about black people.
Yeah.
You're allowed to talk about brown people. You're allowed to talk about every single group under the sun. But the second you mention the word white, all hell breaks loose, and apparently that is a taboo thing that shouldn't be said, shouldn't be suggested. I'm not having this. Let's discuss this after the break.
Michelle Dewsbury is right on the money, as per usual. She's one of the better ones on GB News. Let me know, do you agree with Michelle? I certainly do. I'm going to end this here. When the prospective future Prime Minister goes on TV saying he wants to build a lot of council houses, social houses, don't be under any illusions. People that look like me will not be getting council houses. They'll be for the new arrivals. Again, this is something that was overhauled in the 70s, where it's based on priority, not where you would think that if you're a working class man, you're living at home, and you want to rent your own property, you should be able to go to council and get a council house or a flat. You would think that that's the way it works. But if you're not in a home that's overcrowded, i.e. you're living with mum and dad, or you're living with brother and sister, and you're technically not overcrowded or you're not homeless, you will never get a council house. You will never get something off the state, a subsidised home or something like that. You'll be expected to go to the private sector. But Abdul from Kabul, who came over from France, who says he's fleeing persecution when there's no war in Afghan, he'll get a council house. He'll get one of these new builds that's been built all over the country. But you, your kids, and their families won't. And while we're on the subject, student accommodation is another thing they're going after. I've mentioned this before. They're going to be buying up all the student accommodation. So all these woke lefties that are indoctrinated in university, if your rents are going up or you can't even get student accommodation, think why. All right? Think why. Now, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, give me a like and subscribe. If you think I'm overstating things, make me aware. If you think I'm not going far enough, make me aware. All opinions are valid on this channel. Thank you for your time.